All right, the meeting will come to order. Ms. Gore, we call the roll.
Mr. Benjamin?
Here.
Ms. Fletcher?
Present.
Ms. Williams?
Present.
Dr. Biot?
Present.
Mr. Lamar?
Present.
Mr. Lamar, will you lead us in our pledge to the flag, and would everyone remain standing for a moment of silence, please?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Gore, do we have any citizens' comments? Thank you, Ms. Gore. Is there a motion to approve the agenda for August 28,
Motion.
2018 agenda?
Sorry to jump the gun on you.
No, fine.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the August 28, 2018 agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it and the motion's carried. All right, we're going to move on. I have a short chairman's report. I am proud to say that our school board is again sponsoring the Arlington 5K. So I want to thank our board members for their generous sponsoring of this important event for the Arlington Education Foundation. And also I want to make note that the Arlington Community Schools also sponsors this event every year. So I think we're well represented at the 5K. Also, I collected PTA and PTSA membership forms for all of the board members to assist you in joining our PTSAs at Arlington Middle and, of course, our PTA at Arlington and Donaldson. And, of course, Arlington High School, boy, are they something. They sent us an email about joining Arlington High School membership by email, and I certainly commend them for that. That was a good job. Appreciate their help on that. Also, let me tell you about something that's happening at TSBA at our fall meeting. TSBA, as most of you know, offers an awards program to members who invest their time and effort into becoming more informed and more effective school board members. And I'm proud to say that Dr. Viox will be awarded level 4 at the Delta Fall District meeting at Colleyville High School on September the 17th. So congratulations, Dr. Viox.
Very nice.
On behalf of the school board, I'd also like to wish a very happy birthday belatedly to Mr. Hugh Lamar. Had a big birthday this month.
Birthday to you.
And we've got 2 of our board members born in August. That's quite a trip there for sure. And Mr. Scott Benjamin, a belated happy birthday to you too. We will not discuss age at all.
You proud of his age?
I am.
I'm proud of
81.
mine.
I'm proud of it.
Pretty strong. I heard that.
Did you hear that or what?
I'm hoping I make it that long.
All right, that is the end of the chairman's report. Superintendent's report, Ms. Mason.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. You should have a PowerPoint coming up on your monitors and for the audience. So if you want to follow this, I'll be referencing some of the items that you have that Ms. Gore put down for you. Please, as I go through each of these segments, I would like for this to be a discussion. If there's any items that we'd like to discuss at that time, just let me know. So to get started with, August is always the time where we talk about the accountability results. As you know, accountability in Tennessee has become very complicated. There's a lot of data that is rolled out over a long period of time. We still do not have all the data released. Hopefully by the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to know our school or district designations. Most recently, last week, the state did lift the embargo on the TVOS scores. You may remember in June, we talked about achievement scores, and so I want to kind of put all that together for you all so you can see it together and what it looks like for Arlington schools. So first of all, I just want to go through quickly, make sure everybody understands the difference between achievement and value added. I'm not going to read this, but you can see what are the different levels in achievement 1 through 4. Value added is 1 through 5. Achievement is the proficiency rates. Value added is the concept that are the students meeting the growth at what is projected according to their past performance over a number of years. And so you can see, you look at that last bullet, the achievement is on a bell curve. Everyone can't be in the top level, so therefore they make sure all students can't be proficient in advance. If you look at value added, the concept is that all students can't be on track or mastered, but all can grow from where they are. So there's a comparison across the state in each of these. And looking specifically at ACS achievement, when you break down what this graphic shows you is the comparison of our district with the state. You can see that we continue to exceed the state averages. You also, it's important to know that we also exceed the majority of the areas here within our local area. Some of them were back and forth with some of them. Our elementary school, as you can see, is really high performing. The elementary schools across the state in 3 through 5 score at a higher proficiency rate than the middle school and high school. And looking at, they have given the top 10 state rankings in out of 9 categories, I'm proud to say. In 5 of those, we were noted across the state. You'll see in grades 3 through 5, our Arlington schools ranked 3rd in the state in proficiency. In English language arts, we ranked 5th in the state in proficiency. 5 through 8 science, 5th in the state. That's a unique grouping you can see because it's 1 grade level from our elementary schools and then 3 from our middle schools. Our middle school ranked 7th in the state in ELA, and our high school ranked 5th in the state for U.S. history. I do want to note that in just middle school science, 6 through 8, they ranked number 1 for improvement in proficiency within the state. So a lot of good work going on across all of the schools when you look at comparison statewide for achievement. Any questions on achievement?
What is the lowest rank? It goes how far? It says 7th. Does it go, how far does it go?
Every school's ranked, every school district's ranked.
But we rank 7th. Is it the 8th? Is there an 8th?
Oh,
or
there's
not?
an 8th, there's a 9th, there's all the way up to 142.
132.
42 districts.
Okay.
That
I
have
just wanted to see
elementary
where the
schools.
upper end was.
Yeah. We're at the top. We're at the top end. But these
Okay.
are. This is just in the top 10. I will tell you there were, and looking at, of course, I went and looked at ours and compared for those areas that we didn't. Therefore, for example, high school English number 10, we were 0.2 of a point away from being at the 10, so we were close on some of the other ones. And looking at value-added growth, I did have the opportunity to talk to each of you individually. As a district, once again, we were ranked number 5. You can see that's in that first category, school-wide composite of 5. That's the highest ranking that a district can make. That is a combination of all of our schools together. Then you see each individual school, the high school of 4, Arlington E of 5, the middle school of 1, and Donaldson was a 5. Then you can see how that breaks down in grade levels. Some of the takeaways you can see on the right, there are many more than this, and we have dug deeply in this data, as have the principals. You notice that the elementary school, school-wide, are a level 5, and the high school is a level 4. The middle school, school-wide, improved in science and social studies, but they still have that nagging 1 in language arts and math that they're continuing to work on. That they have seen some growth in that, but not enough to move them out of that 1 category. Elementary, 3rd grade by far was the strongest grade when we dissected it per grade. This graphic here doesn't show per grade, that's the grade band, but when we drill down to each grade, that's what we saw for elementary. And then across the state, middle school and high school literacy was a concern statewide. You see that when you look at ours. Literacy in middle and high school, and even Donaldson had that lower score there. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. There's a contradiction when you see that how we performed. If you recall in achievement, the middle school was 7th in the state in ELA, but though in growth they ranked a 1. And so you see that there's data looks different depending upon what you're looking at.
Why there was a concern statewide over literacy? What seems to be, why is it statewide?
Well, because the statewide average dropped. So, which rarely happens. And so, at the high school, there's just a lot of speculation. I talked to Evan, who is one of the guys at the state that works on these scores. We thought this year for the high school, we speculated that they doubled this year the writing score in the calculation of that. When I talked to him last week, he said that at the state level, they looked at that and they don't have any reason to believe that was it. And but right now they don't know why it was. Now I will tell you that there's a lot of speculation that it was the difficulties with testing platforms.
Amen.
You know, the literacy was the first up on testing, and you know, a lot of these kids tested in one subtest over three testing periods because they kept getting kicked off and had to restart. And so, but it's hard to measure what impact that had. Also in the motivation of kids, you know, after they get kicked off 3 times, you know.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, and after
Absolutely.
they learn that the scores aren't gonna count,
right, that's right. So there were some variables that we can't determine for certain, but those areas that they can, in looking at the data, they're as of a week and a half ago, the state is still perplexed, specifically at the high school level, because the high school scores dropped 20 percentage points.
wow.
Yeah, we dropped 20 percentage. Germantown did, Collierville did. Like I said, statewide, that was an issue.
Thank you.
I wanted to drill down a little bit, and again, I've had the opportunity to speak to each of you, that middle school with that 1, and just showing that it's not all doom and gloom. Last year, each grade level scored a 1. You'll see this year that the 7th grade increased up to, if we were just looking at individual levels, was a level 4. The 8th grade was a level 5. 6th grade is that area that we'll continue to work on, but the index did show growth from the year before. So we're moving in that area. Composite, when you hear the word composite, that's the 4 academic areas considered together. We're drilling down by the standards, by teachers are doing a lot of work in the PLC groups and also each individual subgroups.
May I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
So, I mean, you've been doing this a long time. Is the grade 6, is that kind of a standard every year, kind of a transitional problem? Do those kids have trouble transitioning from elementary school to middle school? I mean,
My history is yes. I even saw that when I was principal at Houston Middle School. 6th grade was always the troublesome year. I have my thoughts about that. I think you've got 2 things going on. One is it's a transition year from one physical building to another. You also have, when we looked back at the achievement, how much higher the elementary school was than the
Right.
middle
Right.
and high school. So when those kids are leaving 5th grade, the prediction of their growth is equal to
Yeah.
grades 3 through 5.
Right.
And so
And
they're
they're
kind of
killing
that
it
first
in 3 through
grade
5.
that hits that wall,
Right.
and it's very difficult to maintain that. And then that growth kind of resets a little bit as they enter 7th and 8th. And, but it's not to say that we can't get that up.
Right.
It's just more challenging. And some of the things that we're looking at doing, I met with Dr. Clark, is they're doing a lot more grouping, meeting the kids where they are. They have the iPads, they have that ability to do that. She has a couple of new, really strong math teachers that she's been quite impressed with and working in their PLC. So we're certainly moving in the right direction. We're in a much different place this year than we were last year when we were talking about value added at the middle
well,
school.
I mean, if you look, I mean, they're 5s all the way through, so there's no place to go in 6th grade, really.
Yeah, right. Any other questions on test scores? I already talked about these are our next steps. Okay, let's look at our enrollment numbers. We had our 11th day enrollment numbers yesterday. That's one of our days that Mr. Mayo gets our enrollment from our schools. I wanted to do a comparison for you all so you could look and see what it was on the 11th day last year. You'll see last year for K through 12, that means students in K through 12. That does not include our special ed population that's self-contained, nor our preschool and the elementary school. So you can see from last year on that day, we have an increase of 102 students in K through 12. When you look at total population is sped and preschool. You can see last year on the 11th day, we were at 4,589. This year, we're at 4,702 with an increase of 113 students. So just what we anticipated. We weren't surprised by this. If we drill that down by each individual school, you'll see where each school is. AES has never been the lowest populated school, but this is where we need them to be because of all the building and the growth. All of that growth is assigned to Arlington Elementary, and so we've opened up space. You will see on the next slide, Donaldson has a large number of non-resident enrollments. We are still sending all elementary non-residents to Donaldson because there's no growth out there. There's no building happening. We do have a few you'll see at Arlington Elementary, but they're employees' kids. You'll see the middle school is actually up from where they were last year, 958. That's good. That's a really good, solid number for the middle school. And the high school is a little bit up from last year, 2,048, 9 through 12. If you had your 30 sped kids, you're at 2,078. And looking at how does that impact with non-residents, you'll see how many non-residents have enrolled. You will see at your table, I have provided for you a detailed of the new applications that were received this year, how many of those were approved, how many of those were declined, how many were approved but parent decided not to come, and then new applicants enrolled because some of those that were approved didn't show up to enroll. And so you see how each of that transpired as of August the 16th. And then you see the returning non-residents that enrolled as of August the 16th. And you'll see for a total of all four schools, 651. I just wanted to note that at this time last year, there were 645. So we're pretty consistent with what we've been. Actually, I'm pleased with that consistency. We had an uptick in our 9th grade and kindergarten non-resident enrollment because, we had predicted at one time that those non-resident numbers would start declining as those kids that stayed with us when we started our school system, especially at the high school level, because they wanted to stay. But this last year, we had quite a bit in those two key grade bands. I know that it's probably going to be a question how many of those K-8 kids are from Lakeland non-residents, and right now we have 50 that are Lakeland kids that are here as non-residents.
Question, I know, what's significant about the 11th day? That a trigger device?
No, we have, how many reporting days are there? 5 or 6 reporting? I think our next one's the 16th day. We report the first day, 3rd day, 5th day, and then it goes to the 11th day and 16th day.
We don't determine that.
We determine that. We
determine those days.
The first attendance poll from the state is at the 20th day.
Okay, so that's.
Yeah, so the 16th day will be the last that we do our internal enrollment, because then we'll start doing it every 20 days through the state poll.
That's the trigger device
the
for the
trigger.
state is the 20th.
The 20th, every 20 days.
Okay.
Hey,
Okay.
Timmy, I want non-resident Lakeland kids, that's kids that would have gone to Lakeland Middle, is
That's
that what you're okay.
Or Lakeland Elementary.
Or Lakeland Elementary,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So 50 total in
Yeah,
those,
and,
okay.
yeah, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's correct. Okay. The next thing, I want to give you a school safety update. You have a folder that says school safety, I believe, on it. I put in there a copy of the PowerPoint from February, just as a reminder. I'm not going to go through that again, but just as a reminder, because it's been a minute. And so these first 2 slides, you may recall this was at a point where there was another tragedy across the country, and so we got our team together and said, are we doing everything that we need to do? And at the February board meeting, we went through this PowerPoint and talked about the things that we had done. So that's a review there. Again, I'm not going to go over it in detail, but I wanted you to have it. Some of the new things, and you should have a document in that folder. And I wanted you to have this because I know as board members, you get asked a lot. And Hugh and I had a conversation about this today. You know, what's the school system doing to help keep our kids safe? And it says school safety actions in preparation for 18-19 school year. That's for you to look through. I am going to talk through it here briefly. And please stop me with any questions. I do have to give a big shout out to Jeremy Yao. He has done a yeoman's job of taking the lead on this and leading our team, making all the contacts underneath Rochelle's leadership. And so he's done the bulk of the work on this. Mr. Ruff has also been doing a lot of work. I think Ms. Williams and I, she was up here, and I saw Tim and Jeremy leave, and I was like, oh, they must be working on school safety. That's the only reason the two of them be together, and they were together, I'm sure, doing school visits and things of that nature. So I'm just going to read through these. You all stop me. You all should have gotten a copy of the 17 copies of the safety plan for the schools. That's in the process of being updated. All the schools have updated theirs. In March, we began exploring what we were going to do for in-service for training of teachers. We did look at 3 specific groups, and you'll see those 3 different groups there. And we ended up with Obsidian Strategies. Couldn't have been happier with them. We did select them, and in our in-service, the training was conducted on August 6th, and we had 3 2-hour sessions for all school staff. That was some hands-on training. We're looking at doing some follow-up as well. Got a lot of positive feedback from teachers on that. You know, 10 years ago, I never thought that one of the most important sessions that we would have had in service was doing training like that, but unfortunately it's the world in which we live in. We did, Mr. Hill did, at the request of Mr. Yao, we talked about this, thought it was a great idea. He recorded that, so as we hire new teachers throughout the year, that's going to be one of the things that they're required to do.
That's good.
It's real good.
You know, when we looked at some of the tragedies, lots of times there were substitutes involved and things of that nature. You'll see that they've put some more training in with their substitutes that hadn't existed before too. In March through April of 2018, Detective Fank with the Department of Homeland Security from Shelby County went through and looked at all of our buildings, all of our 5 sites, and identified security strengths and weaknesses. We've received copies of each of those buildings. The principals have them as well as district level safety team members. So we reviewed those, and some of the measures that we could immediately implement because there was funds. Mr. Ruff did that. Other items were put on our radar to address as we knew we were receiving some grant money, and we're going to talk specifically about what some of those items were. Specifically, we did talk about, I think we had the conversation with the board about thumb locks for the high school classrooms, and so that has actually already started. I believe we've got 1 hallway completed, Mr. Ruff. And just to remind you, the Parkland shooting, they talked about where there were some studs and they couldn't lock the doors. Well, there's a thumb lock where even if you don't have your key or you don't have your key with you, you can hit that thumb lock and you can lock that door. And so hopefully that will provide some more safety. Continuing on, both Mr. Ruff and Mr. Yao did attend at the State Tennessee Site Safety Assessment Training. That was part of the requirement to receive the grants, the state school safety grants. The state assigned a threat level for each school, and the assessment was according to a defined state rubric. And then those assessments have been downloaded into the Department of Education. Each school and district office created and submitted an emergency operations plan that was received in our offices on August the 17th. And those plans were submitted as requirement for the school safety grant application as well, which our grant is due on the 31st. And I do have a copy of that we'll talk about here in a minute. All school safety drill logs, you may remember last year the news media did a story right after one of the tragedies, and on our drill logs, Those will be turned in annually and also are now being downloaded to the Department of Education. We have done training with our principals to make sure that each of the required drills are being conducted, and we do one extra actor shooting drill than what's required. We also involved Shelby County Sheriff's Office in one of those two. All ACS employees were assigned to complete, in addition to the Obsidian, a 45-minute active shooter course on an online platform with the Safe Schools Active Shooter Training course. And remember, that was in addition to that August 6th training. Employees hired during the school year will have to complete the Safe Schools Active Shooter Training course, and substitute teachers will also be required to complete the Safe Schools Active Shooter Training course. Mr. Yao was telling me that there were 3 substitutes that didn't complete it, so he took them out of the system and contacted them, and they immediately then got in to complete it. So, because he's getting a report from that to make sure that that's being done.
That's good.
At what point, we don't want to tell everything about our security?
Right.
At what point we tell the public, and what point do we not tell the
I
public?
think
Because
I think all of these things, you can share what's in that book that I gave you.
Yeah.
That's for you. That's for you.
we don't want to tell all.
That's
At
correct.
some points, we don't want to.
That is correct. That is correct. So I've been very selective of what I've put here, but the details for how we will react if there's something is in that manual that each of you have. That is not public for the public. So we have, we've talked about last year in the spring of that Governor Haslam was, and with the state's budget has approved 2 grant allocation. The first, the SAFE Act, is one that we have always had for a long time, as long as I can remember. They did for just about double that for us, and you'll see on the budget amendment that you will see that just about doubled for us this year. It's right around $45,000. Of that, $25,000 is a contribution to Shelby County Sheriff's Office as part of our MOU that Ms. Beekman negotiated with their general counsel, and that's for the 3 SROs that we have, 1 middle and 2 high. The other $20,000 you'll see that we are recommending that we use for classroom door window coverings, and that protects that glass, so if there is an active shooter situation, they can close that and they won't know what's going on in that classroom. The second one, the school safety grant allocation, that is a one-time funding source. And so with that, and we had a little bit of discussion about that, what I'm recommending is that, and that's right at around $107,000, is that we embark on hiring our own school safety officer. Ms. Beekman has been doing some research over the last couple of weeks about what that will mean to us, because there's some different legal liability and what that looks like. Ms. Beekman, do you want to give a brief overview of what that will look like and how they're different than school resource officers from the sheriff's office?
Yeah, just very briefly, it has a lot to do with as you might imagine, the Fourth Amendment issues involved in making an arrest. There's the old Barney Fife citizens arrest that citizens arrest that you can use, and so we know that it's possible to have an officer there that with those arrest powers, but we've been researching to see how extensive those are, and I think that's enough said about that.
Yeah. Also then, and if we hire a resource, a safety officer, then he's gonna need some equipment, he's gonna need a vehicle, because this individual would go between the 2 elementary schools, and other related equipment that they may have, a firearm. There's a list of things that Mr. Yao has looked at. Also, some additional surveillance cameras and the panic button emergency alert system. That's something that we had talked about putting in classrooms, specifically at the front offices. In our schools, the cell phone reception is bad. Kind of like when you go to a bank, you got a little button, panic button. That was one of the things that was a recommendation when they did an assessment on our buildings. Then, in order to get the grant, there's a required local match of funds. And so what we are proposing that our local match go for is LED campus lighting at the high school, the exterior. You will see that some of that has been done. Though I think most everybody's been to a football game. I don't know if you've noticed a difference in the parking lots. safety training, some of the obsidian and things of that nature, those interior door thumb locks, and additional surveillance cameras. You can never have too many surveillance cameras, especially where they're putting more on the exterior, around, trying to put as many around doors, all doors as possible. So just some notes, so the staff is proposing to hire the school security officer to split between the two elementaries. Want you to know that we will continue to negotiate with Shelby County Sheriff's Office to receive additional school resource officers. There's a new sheriff coming in. He has committed to schools and safety of schools, and so we're hoping that we can negotiate for 1920 another officer, and if we do, then that means both of the elementary schools would have security, so that means all 4 of our schools would have that. But that will be continuing throughout this year. Just a reminder, during the in-service, we talked about the specific skills that the staff learned, the avoid, deny, defend training with Obsidian, and again, that was both presentation style and hands-on drills. And then there were 2 additional trainings for staff during in-service: stop the bleed, that first aid if there is a tragedy. How would you help those that may be injured? And then ACEs, adverse childhood experience, dealing with student mental health. We know in all of these cases is that there were warning signs with a lot of these individuals of mental health, and so if we're doing some training with our teachers to see what those warning signs are, so we can be more proactive instead of reactive.
Ms. Mason, avoid, deny, defend, is that kind of like run, hide, fight?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. And so you have in your folder a variety of things. One of the other things that you have, and we'll talk about this more when Ms. Roberts goes through the budget, but this is a copy of what we will have to submit for our grant application. It says Safe Schools Act 1998 School Safety Grant. And you will see of the monies that those 3 areas that I went through, you will see specific what the item is, the justification, and where it comes from. The first page is from the non-reoccurring. The second page is from the reoccurring. Okay? And it's all the items that I just mentioned on that presentation. But
When
that
we
is
say
for you to keep.
reoccurring, how many years will that reoccur?
There's no timeline on it.
There's no time.
There's no specific timeline. Okay, any questions on school safety? Okay,
I just have
Yes,
one quick,
sure.
so Tyler trained, he videoed that?
He did.
Is there any way we could watch, just if
Sure.
somebody was interested
Sure.
on the board, wanted to see that?
sure,
Awesome.
That would be great.
That
Yeah.
would be great,
Yeah.
Tyler.
is that something you put on a jump drive for them, or?
So
is it-
it's probably gonna be about 40 gigs, which is pretty large. So I think what I'm gonna do is make it an unlisted link on YouTube.
Okay.
So as long as you have that link, you can watch it. Otherwise, the regular public can't see it.
So I got into trouble because you did a fantastic video for a grant, one of the schools, and I shared it. So tell the board not to share that link.
Yes. I'll make sure to put that in there.
Good. Because I made that mistake and got yelled at almost immediately. It was a good video, though.
All right, some fun stuff. So we are meeting monthly still for the Arlington Middle School gym project, and we've got some other things going on over there too, so I'm gonna hit both of those. And so I've got some pictures actually from today, right after our meeting. Tyler met us, so this is what we look like now. We've got some footings.
Look at
Yes.
that.
We're really excited. I have included in your packet, this timeline is effective as of today. So we're looking at the end of February for completion. Of course, every time we meet, this looks different. If there's rain. We're hoping if they get a good stretch, they may be able to make up some days. So it can work either way. Here's another view. Look at that. Do you know what that is? That is that wooded area out front that you used to not even be able to see through.
Right. Somebody cleaned it up.
So you've got that view, and that view. It's also on the corner as well.
Very nice.
So that's another security that we look at. But I will tell you, kudos to town. The town has bought a new piece of equipment, and Mr. Ruff and his guys asked if they could borrow it, and they said, no, it's new, but we'll come and do it for you. And we
even
said, that's even better.
Even better.
And so Public Works from the town, Thursday and Friday of last week did that work. That piece of equipment's pretty amazing. It cuts through up to a 3-inch tree. And so that's exciting. When you go by, it just, not only is it safer, but it's more visually appealing.
good.
So I wanted to share that with you.
Is the change of that, our sign on the agenda somewhere?
Yes, yep,
Okay.
yep. Other board updates, the junior ROTC, those of you that were here year 1 and year 2, you may remember we've had 1 or 2 parents come and ask about that. Since that parent came, I've tasked Todd with every year in July and August, he calls and they say, sorry, we're not adding anymore. And so comes in the next summer and I'll call Todd and say, don't forget to call. Well, this year he called, he said, you know what? There may be a chance this year. So we actually were going to meet with him Thursday, and he had to cancel because something was going on at another program. But we're going to go ahead and get started and start surveying kids. So I wanted to go ahead and let you all know that we've moved this needle a little bit. And so what you see here is what is the junior ROTC. Yeah, we're continuing. This is a big military community, but also know that it's not about these kids joining the military. I think that's one of the things that we've learned, and they've been very quick to tell us that that's not what it's about. That may occur, but that's not the sole goal of this. And so when you look at, there's many steps in the process, including assessments of our school, our city, location, size of our buildings, classrooms, the interests of students, interests of parents and stakeholders, and additional budget items. Our immediate next steps is we're going to be surveying our students to see, is there interest with our students? Is there interest in this program? Once that happens, we'll schedule a meeting with a representative from the JROTC to look at our buildings, they'll look at the area that the classrooms that a program could go in, what is our results of our survey, and then what are any other requirements that they may ask of us. They will provide next steps if they believe that we're a candidate to move forward in that process.
Just in the high school only?
This will be in the high school. They do have a middle school program, but this is for the high school. What they have shared with us is that they will help fund up to 2 positions at 50%. That means that we would pay 50% of the teacher's salary and they would pay 50%. I think, Todd, did they say a minimum of 100 students is what they typically do? But they also said they may give us, depending upon what the survey is, they may give us some time to build that. Know that they only have a finite number of programs across the state. And so, we're competing with other people. But we're really excited about it. You will see that last bullet there. It's more than a connection to the armed services. That is certainly one, but it also helps teach our kids about responsibility, teamwork, leadership, and all of those things. So I just wanted to give you an update. We've moved the needle a little bit.
Well, being an ex-military man, if there's anything I can do, I would like to do it.
Sure. And we may invite you to when we do get the meeting scheduled for the meeting.
Okay. Through the Air Force Association, the junior ROTC at schools around this area, we make awards to these schools. We go to the school and make an award from the Air Force Association.
Yeah, right. Todd, which is it affiliated with?
The one we're talking with is the Army.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay. Just some miscellaneous items we had talked about in the spring when Bellevue left, that there were a couple churches that were looking. We finally, as of Friday, have a contract that both Ms. Williams and myself has signed with River City Church. That contract only goes through 12/31/18. That on that contract, it includes 1 evening service a month, with the first service being September 9th. They are, Pastor Dunn wanted to see how well received an evening service would be, and I believe that's going to be, their time period that is on the contract is from 5 to 8 o'clock. And so I'll as we get information back on the number of folks attending, I'll report back to the board. So they do have, he does have a standalone church in Bartlett that he preaches at in the mornings. That's why they're trying the evening service here in Arlington. But do have several Arlington people that's members of the church that drive to the Bartlett location.
That's at Donaldson, right?
No, this will be at the high school. Now, Faith is, you may remember in the June meeting, starting in July, Faith started at Donaldson and is going very well. I've talked to them about a week ago, and they said that they're starting to get their stride on the setup and takedown and all of that. And so.
So what is the
it's
length
going
of that contract with Donaldson? The
well. It's a
church?
year.
1 year.
1 year. 1 year. Also, just a reminder that it's that time for the family life curriculum, so it'll be out for folks to preview. The preview dates, let's see, is September the 20th from 7:30 to 4:30. And so we'll get this out to our stakeholders, so any parents that want to preview what that curriculum is, to see if they want their child to partake in that, they will have an opportunity on that day. Also just wanted to give a few kudos to some of our hardworking teachers, and then Mr. Hill's got something, and then Mr. Mayo. I want to say congratulations to a couple folks. Miss Perry at the high school for marketing and entrepreneurship teacher at Arlington High School for being selected to serve on the Tennessee Department of Education Work-Based Learning Regional Leadership Team. Again, representation at the state level. Curtis Herring, one of our science teachers at the high school, has been one of 30 teachers, I believe, selected to be a Tennessee Ready Ambassador. There are a group of educators and testing coordinators from across the state who are working to serve as thought partners and advisors. And with the assessment vendor process, you may know that they're putting that back out to bid. And so, again, we've got somebody in the trenches as they're looking at statewide testing. And so we're anxious to get feedback from him. Our very own Mr. Jason Winkler here at the district office. He's ACT Instructional Technology Coordinator, and Mr. Hawkins, who's associate's teacher at the middle school, have been selected to perform. I guess they will be performing, to do a presentation at the Department of Education Lead Conference, October 3rd through the 5th in Nashville. Really excited about this presentation. The title of the presentation is Teaching Computer Literacy and Coding at the Middle School Level. As you know, coding is available to all grade levels, and it can be free. And so I'm anxious to see how big. They put them in one of the big rooms, so we're hoping they're going to have a big crowd. And so with that, I just wanted to share to let the board know that we are continuing our reach beyond Arlington and being part of the conversation statewide and helping to make decisions out of the Department of Education. And so with that, if Mr. Hill will come up, part of our strategic plan committee that Mr. Lamar sat on, we talked about branding and updating the website. I have talked to each of y'all about some of what we've gotten back in the initial branding. Also, we've got some more of the website hasn't gone live yet, but we have some more to show on where it is at this point, with hopefully that going live in September.
Okay. So first I'll start with the branding, and like Ms. Mason just said, you all saw the 4 options that S2N Design and Marketing came up with. By the way, they're a company out of Memphis. They've had several big clients, including the University of Memphis, the Memphis Rise Academy, I Love Memphis marketing brand. So they've been around for about 10 years, so they're pretty good. So we thought that it was important to not only obviously show you guys, but also everyone or as many people as we could reach within here at central office, but also bring back in the Engage Community Support Strategic Plan Group, since this idea to create a new district-wide logo was kind of spawned from that group. So we showed them as well, and that has a couple community members, so we felt that was important. And so the majority of people said this was their favorite. And I think some of you did as well. But for the most part, This is what people said. I think you've seen a couple variations of this logo, but I have a few more to show you on the screens that are a little different. So this year we also unveiled our new tagline, Think, Create, Achieve. We did that with the in-service design with the light bulb and the Think Different. That's when we unveiled the Think, Create, Achieve. So that's what this logo would look like with that. But also it's important to have different variations of it as well. So we have, this would be the square view. And then the one on the left, obviously the horizontal, more landscape. This would be something you would find on a letterhead. It's just a little easier to use on that. And then your circle one as well, which is more like a seal. And then this is what it would look like on t-shirts, is another one.
Star Trek.
Star Trek.
I didn't think of that, yeah.
It is kind of Star
I'm a
Trek.
Trekkie.
And that's what it would look like on business cards. Now, although, again, this was what the majority of people chose, this is one they liked, and we like it as well, but we did want to go back to the company and ask them just to come up with a few more options. We thought it was important to see one that included ACS. Since most people know us as ACS, we wanted to either see this as a variation that included CS after the star A, or just give us a totally different option that would look at ACS. Because, when it comes to logos, we're going to want to keep this thing for at least a decade. So I want to make sure that we're all in love with it, and it's something that the community could get behind as well. So we thought that was important. So the company is currently working on that. So I'm excited to see what they come up with. Any questions on this? Cool. All right, so the website. This is what I'm excited about as well. This we're looking to launch last week of September, really. And it could happen before, but we have some training scheduled. So this is a live look at the website right here. This would be the district page. What was really important about the new website is that all schools look similar to the district page. So right now you go to Donaldson and then you go over to AMS and they look totally different. And that's the same way. So we essentially have 5 different websites in one district. Now it's going to look exactly like this. So no matter which school you're at, you're familiar with the website, the layout, and how it functions. So we're still changing a few things with this, where we're kind of in the development stage still, so we're coming back with changes. But for the most part, this is what the template's going to look like. So obviously the logo at the top left is going to change once we get our new logo. But what's really exciting about this here is that on our current website, there are a lot of hidden menus. There's actually 5 levels of different menus on the homepage. On this new site, you hover over it once, and you see everything at a glance. So very easy for navigation. And you have your 4 different tabs. So you have our district, this is Board of Education, Superintendent, the different departments, and for employees. We have academics and athletics, so the different curriculum we offer. Obviously, we are big on fine arts, and we're really trying to push STEM in our district, so we made sure to have that fine arts and engineering tab to really show off our STEM programs, but as well as the paid Fine Arts Academy and all the other music and art programs we have throughout the district. And then we have our schools, that's where you'll find your schools, and then a parents tab with different resources, calendars, that sort of thing. So what's really nice about this too, you have your big this is a really modern looking website. So a lot of modern websites today, they have that big picture that stretches across the screen. So we want to make sure to have that. And this is where your really large announcements will be. So registration's upcoming. People know when they visit your website, that's what they want. That's what we want them to see. So that's what that's going to look like. We have your quick links. What I really wanted to focus on with the new website was the latest news. We're constantly trying to push out the latest news across the district. So the newsroom is really at the forefront. Has dates on it now. I think I've mentioned this one time before. Currently on the website, say there's registration. Well, when registration's over, I currently have to go in and take that article down. Now it's dated. I don't have to do that. So it's very good for archive purposes as well. Upcoming events. Featured video. I'm a video guy, so I try to push as many videos out as I can, so that's now living on the homepage as well. And then what I thought was super important as far as recruitment goes for bringing families into Arlington are statistics. So on the district site, these are going to be district-wide statistics, and when you get onto your individual school page, you'll have school-specific statistics on that homepage. And then finally, school map, and then your Twitter and social media feeds. So that is a look at the website. And like I said, so we currently have that we're launching the last week of September. In the next few weeks, I'll be training with all of the webmasters, and the company will be providing that training.
I know in this committee, we discussed not having 4 or 5 different calendars, but one calendar. Is the one calendar for ACS in this?
So that's what I'm going to be playing around with it once this website goes live. I think we can do that. The problem is, when we have sports, that's going to be a lot of sports that are happening in 1 week. So as you see right here with the upcoming events, we don't want it too cluttered, so you're only going to have your 5 most recent or upcoming events there. So I'm going to play around with it. I would like to maybe eventually break it out into categories. So if all you wanted to see was sports on the calendar, then that's all you would see. Or if all you wanted to see was fine arts, that's what you would see.
On a specific day?
On a specific day, week, month. So
That's what we talked about in the committee. If you wanted to go look at something middle school, then you have to go to the middle school. Or if you want
Right.
something to elementary school, but you did it in one. That's what we talked about in the committee, if I remember.
Right.
Trying to do that.
Right, you're correct. And so what the company has told us is that anytime I, at the district level, add an event, I can also push it down to the individual schools. And then I can also, the schools can push it up to our main calendar as well. My big thing is I don't want it too cluttered, so I'm looking at different calendar options to make sure that we can reach that goal.
Thank you.
And Tyler, before you sit down, well, you share some of those big stats that you did with us on the number of hits and likes on our Facebook page in the 6 months that you've been with us. Do you remember that? Go ahead.
I can look it up in my email. Let's see. Yes. All right. Yeah, so social media, specifically on Facebook, obviously the goal is to attract more people so they see the news that's going on. So there have been 744 new likes on our Facebook page year to date, to compare to last year's total of 344. So 744 already this year. So we've already.
And what date is that from today? From today, how far back?
That's from January to now.
January to now. Okay.
Yes, sir. And then, like I said, all of last year's was only 344. So more than double that right now. Like I said, I'm a video guy. So right now we have 59,000 minutes of videos viewed so far this year. The top one being the We Are Arlington middle school promo. A lot of people like that. So compared to 2017, which Jeff made a funny in our executive staff meeting because he said, well, there were no videos last year. So last year in 2017, there were 8,500 minutes viewed. This year, it's 59,000 minutes viewed so far. Year to date, our posts have reached more than 2.7 million people. Obviously, a lot of these are the same people over and over on each post, but that's 2.7 million people so far compared to the previous 8 months of 1.6 million. So an additional million plus on that so far.
No. Great job. Great job, Tyler. Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
Excellent.
And then last but not least, from the superintendent's report is Mr. Mayo.
Yeah, my stuff is not nearly as exciting. So bear with me. I'm probably one of the few people that look forward to the first day of school actually, because that means all positions are generally filled and all staffing is complete. So this year, we had a total of 54 new hires, and that includes certified, classified, all schools and central office. So 54 was the total for this school year. Generally, we're between 35 and 40, something like that, 42, 45, somewhere around there. So it's up a little bit, and that's attributed, I think, primarily to people shifting in positions. And then we also added some new positions, some new teaching positions. We added a new technology person. So, with that, you're going to see an increase in the number of new hires that we have as well. As far as subs are concerned, substitute teachers, we started the school year with 69 substitute teachers on staff, and additionally, we will have training sessions approximately once a month. That can vary depending on the number of applicants that we receive. We keep that sub application up all year so that we can go in and monitor that, or if we notice a dip in our fill rate, then that's time that we need to start bringing in more subs and getting them approved. Because even though you start with 69, some of those people have days that they don't work, or, I can only work these hours, I can only work at this school, or, maybe they take an interim position for a week or two, and then that takes them out of the sub pool for day-to-day subbing. So there's all kinds of combinations that we continue to need to replenish that substitute applicant pool. In a few weeks, hopefully, I will be sending you an email with tenure recommendations that we will hope to be bringing before you at our September board meeting, and that's provided that we get the information that we need from the State Department, and we will be looking at that, making sure that as the law has allowed, that none of that is punitive toward teachers as far as it relates to their tenure status. But we will be looking at that closely once that information, Ms. Douglas shares with us, that information is available. And then I'll be sending you that information, offering you the opportunity to review any of those files in advance of that recommendation coming to the board, hopefully in September. But if we don't get that information, it could be delayed for the next board meeting. But I'll keep you up to date on that. We are already looking at our recruitment schedule. I think we have like 5 dates already for fall and about 3 for spring. So that's, that process never stops. It keeps continuing, and so that we'll be in good shape for December if we have a need for openings in January, but also as we build that pool as we go into the next school year. It seems like it's a far away now, but it's really not in the reality of the way the chain reaction happens. So that concludes the information that I have to share with you tonight.
How do we compete with other municipalities on subs? Do we compete with Bartlett, or how does that work? If I'm a sub teacher, where do I go if I want to do well?
Well, we actually have substitutes that work for us and Bartlett, and so we are competing in that sense for keeping people here that want to substitute just in our district. But a lot of times there are substitute teachers who want to work every day, and we don't always have that opportunity for someone to work every day. Or maybe someone in Bartlett had an advance notice of an absence, and so that substitute that works for us went ahead and took that job or accepted a position. So those dynamics work together, but pretty much Bartlett, Lakeland are really all that we are sharing substitutes with. Keep in mind too, I think Millington and Collierville, they still use Kelly Services for contracting subs out. They don't have their own employees. And we have been very pleased with our ability to fill absences since we've taken that in-house. Right now, we have like a 99.9. I think we've had one unfilled job since school started. And so that's a really good percentage of fill rate.
We used to do Kelly Services,
We did.
right?
We did. This is our second year.
So we went in-house.
Taking it in-house.
And that's better for us, it appears.
We think, yeah, it seems to be. We have more control, I guess, monitoring of the substitutes that are coming to our district. If there's an issue, then we deal with that directly rather than depending on someone outside that doesn't know our district to deal with that issue. So we feel like that's definitely an advantage to the contracting.
And you gave us figures last year. You filled every time that we needed a sub with your pool, you filled.
Pretty much. We had a couple of, and usually those were always tracked back to when a teacher had arrived at school and had to leave, like sick child, or, I tried to make the day, but I got down to my room and I'm just not gonna be able to do it. Those were the jobs that were unfilled. But if we know about the job in time, generally, our processes that are in place have been able to fill it. So I think last year overall, we had like a 95 point something fill rate, which
Says
is
a lot about working for this district.
really
You
good
can fill
as you
the
move
pool
forward.
Yeah.
Without, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and also, Mr. Lamar did save us $100,000+ when we brought that in-house. It's much more
Fantastic.
Yeah. And with that concludes my superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mason, Mr. Mayo, and Mr. Hill. Thank you so much. General Counsel report, Ms. Speakman.
I'll spare you.
You're our favorite. Financial report, Ms. Roberts.
Good evening. We have one financial report. It's the Interlocal Health Benefits Plan Asset Trust. If you go to page 5, it'll show the year-to-date, and this report is for the 12 months ending June 30th, 2018, so this is the completion of one fiscal year. We had year-to-date revenues of $35 million. On the next page, we have year-to-date expenses of $39.5 million. We had a beginning balance of $6.4 million, and so at the end of June, our net position was $1.8 million. And that concludes the financial reports.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts, appreciate it very much.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Why the swing like that? Is that a concern for us? I'm kind of new to that. That seems like a big swing in balance. Is that a concerning thing or not?
Yes and no. We have a plan in place, and we have not had to implement it at this point. What happened was we went from using Meritain to Health Scope. And in that switch, we had run-out claims for Meritain that we had to complete finishing. When we switched to Health Scope, they paid the claims a lot quicker. So what happened, instead of us having maybe a 2 to 3 month lag on claims were being paid much quicker within a month. And so that caused the cash flow to shift in that way. Had we not made that switch, it would have remained the same.
Right.
In the summer months, the schools do not make contributions, and our pool includes the schools and other municipalities. Municipalities make contributions over 12 months. So what we looked at is if cash had gone into the negative in the summer, then the schools would have made a contribution. We have not had to do that.
Gotcha. Good, thank you.
Dr. Biak, you did not have anything for TLN. Did you
No,
want to say
just,
something?
yeah, just that, whatever we want our legislative agenda to look like, now's the time. So
Absolutely.
if there's anything that you guys are interested in, shoot me an email. I think we hammered out a meeting with general counsel, so we're gonna start working on it. So there's things you're concerned about, and same thing for superintendent and district office, anything that we may be unaware of that you want us to advocate for, please let me know.
Will the new governor and the new legislature
Should be
be
interesting.
impact on what we are looking at?
It should be interesting.
Who knows?
Yeah, yep,
Who knows?
it will.
Because
I'm
we
sure
don't
it
know.
will.
We don't know.
We're in the dark right now.
That's right,
That's true.
that's right,
And we just hope they have good advisors.
yes.
Amen, for sure. All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the motion is carried. Superintendent Mason, will you lead us through our miscellaneous budget items and our business recommended action items?
Certainly, Madam Chairman. I'm going to turn over item 8A to Ms. Roberts. This is a resolution to amend the 2018-19 schools budget. She'll give you the details. I have had the opportunity to talk to each of you individually, but Ms. Roberts, if you will go through that, please, for us.
No problem. So the first resolution, 2018-12, is our normal monthly budget transfers. It's transferring money from one category to the other that only requires the board's approval. So if you look through, one of the transfers were between textbooks, between electronic textbooks and bounds. We found that we had to get more bound books than electronic, so there's a shift there. And then all the others below that, just a shift between different line items.
And with that is my recommendation to approve Resolution 2018-12.
All right, is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, the motion is carried.
The next item we have on the agenda, 8B, this resolution is adding to the budget, unlike the last resolution where money was being changed from one category to another. Ms. Roberts, would you please explain that to the board?
Yes, so when we looked at our budgeted revenue for the current 18-19 school year, what we discovered is that the local option sales taxes for the 17-18 fiscal year had came in much higher, and so in order to meet our maintenance of effort, we had to increase our projected revenue for local option sales taxes by approximately $500,000. And so this resolution will have to be approved by both the school board and the town. But as you go through each of the items, this is where we added the additional $500,000 in revenue as well as in expenditures items in that area. And what we had done as an executive staff is gone through where there were areas where we found that during the budgeting process, we may have missed those areas, some things that we needed to do. We went ahead and allotted for them in this budget. In addition to the general fund revenue, we also received additional funding in our federal grants through the state as well as our discretionary grants. As Ms. Mason mentioned earlier, the Safety Schools grant, we received additional funding there as well. And so we're adding all these additional funding, which adds to our bottom line budget, which requires both the board's approval and the town's approval.
And I will add to that, you will see that the largest add item is in the instructional area, and where it should be. The $80,000, that's specifically for the TV studio upgrade to the equipment to HD. We are doing a lot of live streaming now through YouTube, Facebook, and other live video broadcasts. And so it's time for equipment upgrade. The other $150,000 instructional supplies are for items to support our K-12 literacy support. That was one of the areas we looked at in our test scores, looking at literacy. Special areas, our fine arts with our PAVE Academy, and music, STEM. We've added STEM to the elementary schools. This is going to allow us to help build out that additional curriculum, K through 12. Technology, we'd like to expand Nearpod to our elementary schools. You may recall that that's an interactive tool that engages teachers and students in a digital classroom. Currently, we only have that in middle school and high school. So it's going to allow us to do some of those things that we weren't going to be able to do prior to that.
It's a good problem to have, right?
Yes, yes. And so with that, it is my recommendation to approve Resolution 2018-13.
All right, you heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
I second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, the motion's carried.
Okay, our next item on the agenda, item 9A, Resolution 2018-14. This is the amending of our fee schedule. You will see school has started, so has the field trips. So if you will look at the last page, on page 3, you will see the first fee that we are requesting is at the middle school, and that's for perennial math. We've been doing that at the high school level. We have the option to funnel that down to the middle school. So for those students that want to participate in that, it is $25, and that is a required fee to participate in the program. At the high school, we're looking at 2 different field trips. One is with Miss Perry. That is an educational field trip that is here in Memphis at the Cook Convention Center. That's for CTE, and you'll see that that's $50 for student registration and for the charter bus to get from Arlington there. The second one is with SGA with Miss Kelly. You will see that is $500. That's obviously an overnight trip that includes the convention fee, which is $170 of that, hotel, food, $200, and then transportation, $130. So with that, it is my recommendation to approve Resolution 2018-14 to amend the school fee schedule.
All right, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, the motion is carried. The next big item would be our adjournment. Do we have a motion?
Could I make a short address here? We sit back on the board, and I like to commend the staff. Gearing up the school system is a tremendous
Amen.
tremendous thing to do. I've done it in the college level, and I applaud you people for getting it done. And the board just as proud of you as we will ever be, and we want to say thank you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You look tired tonight even, so we're gonna get this meeting adjourned. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The ayes have it, and the meeting is adjourned.